Cleveland Browns didn't just discover a new quarterback, they accidentally exposed their entire coaching staff in the process. Shadūr Sanders was buried on the depth chart for months. No first-team reps, no opportunity, no spotlight. The team stuck with a quarterback who couldn't win, while the rookie with elite talent was collecting dust. But when ownership stepped in and made a move that coaches refused to, everything changed. In just one start, Shedeur didn't just win. He made history. The team came alive. The stadium was electric. And for the first time in years, it felt like Cleveland had a real quarterback leading the way. So why was he hidden this long? Why did the coach fight against it for months? And what really happened behind closed doors that sparked this quarterback revolt in Cleveland? This isn't just about football anymore. It's a full-blown power struggle between a head coach trying to protect his ego and an owner who might have just saved the franchise from itself. Make sure you're locked in, because what you're about to see is one of the wildest QB stories in Browns history, and how Shadūr Sanders might be the QB Cleveland's been waiting for since 1999. To understand how we got here, we have to go back to the moment nobody in the Browns' war room wants to talk about. To understand how we got here, we have to rewind to the exact moment everything went off track, a moment that should have been a celebration, but instead became the clearest sign that something was very wrong inside the Cleveland Browns. The 2025 NFL Draft. Shadūr Sanders, a name every football fan already knew, not because of his father, not because of the headlines surrounding his transfer to Colorado, but because of what he did on the field. Big throws, big wins, huge poise and pressure-packed moments. Mel Kiper Jr. called him the best quarterback in the entire draft class. Other analysts? They had him pegged as a mid to late first-round pick, a potential franchise cornerstone. Scouts raved about his mental toughness, leadership, and deep ball accuracy. But when draft night came, nothing. Teams passed. Again. And again. And again. It wasn't until pick 144 inches, the 5th round, when the Cleveland Browns finally called Shadūr's name. For most teams, this would have been considered a steal, a robbery. Even, you land a starting caliber quarterback with the kind of ceiling Shadūr has in the 5th round? That's the kind of pick that turns GMs into legends. But here's the craziest part. Nobody in the Browns' war room looked excited. Footage from the draft room surfaced, and fans noticed something alarming. No smiles, no high fives, no chest bumps, none of the normal celebration you see when a team lands a guy they believe in. For what should have been a moment of hype and hope, the room looked awkward. And when sources close to the Browns were asked about it, the truth started spilling out. The coaching staff didn't want Shadūr. There was a split in the room. The pick was ownership's call, not the coach's. Let that sink in. Inside one of the most quarterback-starved franchises in NFL history, a team that's cycled through 40-plus starters in 20 years, the coaching staff didn't want to take the quarterback Mel Kiper called a franchise player. The front office didn't believe the hype. They had another target in mind. That target? Dylan Gabriel. Reports later confirmed that the offensive staff pushed for Gabriel leading up to the draft. They wanted him as the more coachable, low-profile choice, a safer pick. And they thought drafting him early would cool down Jimmy Haslam's obsession with Shadūr Sanders. Yeah, you heard that right. Insiders say the Browns staff drafted Gabriel not because they loved him, but because they thought it would convince the owner to shut up about Shadūr. That's not football logic. That's pure politics. And that's where the cracks started. You now had a coaching staff working one plan and an owner working a different one. But here's the thing, no one wants to admit, Jimmy Haslam was right. Even after being drafted, Shadūr wasn't treated like a legitimate option. He spent preseason reps way down the depth chart, barely saw action with the first-team offense. Newspapers in Cleveland talked about quarterback battles, but they weren't real battles. Shadūr never got a fair shot. Meanwhile, Dylan Gabriel, the favorite in the building, was struggling even in training camp. Accuracy issues, ball placement problems, and worst of all, no visible chemistry with his skill players. And yet, Gabriel still won the job. Shadūr? Buriet. Let's pause for a second and ask a simple question. Why? Why would a team with a history of quarterback failure push away the only guy on the roster with first-round talent? It all circles back to ego. The people in charge of developing quarterbacks didn't pick this one, so they wanted no part in developing him. And when Haslam overruled them during the draft, that tension didn't go away. It simmered. And Browns fans? They saw through it instantly. Cleveland sports radio near exploded after Shedur's name was called, not because fans were hyped, but because they knew something was off. There was no plan for him, no vision. It was the Browns, once again, taking a promising QB and tossing him into a chaotic mess. Fast forward to week 1 of the 2025 season. Dylan Gabriel gets the starting nod, and every week that followed looked worse than the last. The offense was lifeless. The passing game was non-existent. And the Browns' defense? They were elite, constantly held back by an offense that couldn't stay on the field long enough to breathe. Meanwhile, the most talented quarterback on the roster was still holding a clipboard. At this point, fans were begging, screaming, chanting for Shadūr Sanders. But even then, the coaching staff wouldn't budge. That's what makes this story so wild. A quarterback with top-tier talent falls into their lap and they try to pretend he doesn't exist. Until the situation became so bad, so undeniable, so in-your-face broken, that ownership had to step in and take away the keys from the staff entirely. Because once the hemorrhaging started, there was no saving face. Shadūr Sanders wasn't just a 5th-round pick anymore. He was the only quarterback who had a shot at saving this season. And by refusing to believe it, the coaching staff may have cost the Browns everything. Something bizarre happens when a team hits rock bottom. They stop pretending, and that's exactly what happened to the Cleveland Browns in mid-November of the 2025 season. The offense wasn't just struggling, it was sinking. Week after week, Dylan Gabriel was putting up some of the worst numbers in the league. By week 11, the Browns were 1-5 under his leadership, and his quarterback rating had nosedived to the bottom of the league, literally 39th out of 39 qualified QBs. It was no longer a debate, this wasn't working. But Stefanski still wouldn't budge. The fans were furious. Talk shows were melting down. Analysts started openly mocking Cleveland's refusal to start the one guy on the roster who might spark life into the season, Shadūr Sanders. And then, fate intervened. The hit that opened the door. Week 11. Browns versus Ravens. Dylan Gabriel drops back in the second quarter, looking to salvage what had already been a brutal game. The Ravens bring the blitz. He doesn't see it in time. Bam. A blindside hit sends Gabriel flying. Medical staff rushes out. Concussion protocol. Just like that, the situation changed. Now, Coach Stefanski didn't have a choice. With the starter down and no other trusted veterans sitting on the sidelines, the Browns had to finally call on the rookie they'd been hiding all season. Shadūr Sanders walks onto the field, and the entire stadium holds its breath. Rough debut or sabotage in plain sight? Let's be honest, Shadūr's relief outing that day was bad. Really bad. 4 completions on 16 pass attempts. Just 47 yards. 1 interception. It wasn't the spark anyone hoped for on paper. But look closer, and something far more important becomes clear. He was never prepared for this. Why? Because he hadn't gotten a single week of first-team reps all season. No chemistry with the starting receivers, no real-time pace with the offensive line, no full install of game plans designed around his strengths. So the fact that his first NFL action came mid-game in high-pressure garbage time with 0 preparation, that wasn't development. That was sabotage. Or maybe just straight-up neglect. But that one moment, as ugly as it looked, did something huge. It forced the Browns to confront a question they'd been constantly avoiding. Why are we still protecting a guy who loses every week when the rookie with actual upside is sitting right there? And the answer? It came from the top, when ownership steps in. According to NFL insider Ian Rappaport, the decision to start Shedeur in Week 12 didn't come from Kevin Stfansky. It came from the owner, directly. The plan all along was to play Shedeur from Jimmy Haslam all the way down, Rappaport said. This wasn't a suggestion, it was a mandate. Let that sink in for a second. The owner of the team had to literally override his coaching staff just to get Shadūr Sanders on the field. That's not drama, that's dysfunction. When organizations are aligned, this kind of thing doesn't happen. But in Cleveland, it had reached a point where the coaching staff's refusal to try something new was so damaging, the people at the top had to intervene. Even more telling, Gabriel cleared concussion protocol before Week 12. He was healthy, but still, Shedeur was named the starter. Stefanski stood in front of the media and tried his best to act like it was his call. The #1 job of a quarterback is to help your team win, he said with a straight face, and we're excited Shedeur got that win under his belt. But come on, everyone knew what really happened. He was backed into a corner and he finally tapped out. Week 12, everything changes. The opponent? The Las Vegas Raiders, the same team that had been heavily linked to Shedeur during the draft. The team that some insiders believed might even take him in the 3rd round. They passed multiple times. So now, get this. Shadūr Sanders' first NFL start comes against the very team that didn't believe in him. You couldn't script it better. And this time, he had something he didn't before. Actual practice reps with the starters, a full week of install, chemistry building, a game plan designed for him. What happened? Shedeur walked in and made Browns history, a rookie that didn't flinch. Let's break down what happened in his first full start. Final stat line? Solid. Decision-making? Sharp. Arm talent? Ridiculous. But one play changed the tone of everything, a perfect 52-yard strike to Isaiah Bond. It was the longest Browns completion all year, not just from Shedeur, but from anyone. And on the sideline, Myles Garrett lost it. Garrett, the face of the defense, leader of the locker room, captain of the team, turned to reporters after the game and said, "Not many guys in this league can make that throw. That's how you earn the respect of a teammate fast. That's how you flip a roster that's been dying for leadership on offense." That play didn't just put Cleveland on the board, it put Shadūr Sanders on the map. So, what now? In the span of 2 weeks, Shedeur went from being forgotten to being mandatory. From buried on the practice squad to must-watch TV. From why did we draft him to what if we'd started him since week 1? And it all started because of one hit, one protocol, one moment that forced truth into the spotlight. But the game against the Raiders? That was just the preview. The real test is coming next, and it's a brutal one. Shadūr Sanders is now the starter, but waiting on the schedule? The San Francisco 49ers. One of the most vicious, disciplined, unforgiving defenses in football. And if he can survive that gauntlet, we might not be talking about Rookie of the Year anymore. We might be talking franchise quarterback. So how does a rookie with 1 week of prep stare down the NFL's elite, and is the rest of the locker room buying in? What happened in Cleveland wasn't just a win. It was a shift, because when Shadūr Sanders stepped onto the field as the Browns starter, everything about the team changed: the body language, the energy, the belief. This wasn't just some backup filling time until the starter came back. This was the Browns for the first time all season finally having a quarterback who looked like he actually belonged there. And it all happened in one game. A stadium that had been silent roars back to life. For weeks, the Browns' home stadium had felt more like a funeral than a fan base. You could hear the frustration in the silence. People showing up, but not expecting much. No buzz. No momentum. Just a team with playoff-caliber defense being dragged down by an offense that felt stuck in cement. But this game felt different. From the opening snap, it was like every player on the field finally had a reason to believe. The offensive line held blocks longer. Receivers fought harder for separation. Myles Garrett and the defense watched every offensive snap like fans in the stands. And the crowd? Loud. Hopeful. Ready. Because they knew this wasn't the same Browns team that stumbled through the last 3 months, the throw that shifted the entire season. Let's go straight to the moment. You already know the one. 3rd quarter, Browns running heavy play action. Shedeur escapes pressure, sets his feet and lets it fly. A 52-yard missile to Isaiah Bond streaking across the middle of the field. No hesitation. Perfect velocity. Dropped into a window the size of a shoebox. Boom, caught. Bond goes down at the 1-yard line, setting up a walk-in touchdown on the next play. The crowd erupts, Twitter breaks, and even national broadcasters who'd ignored the Browns for weeks suddenly lean in. Because that throw, that was NFL level, maybe even more. "There's not many guys in this league that can make that throw," Myles Garrett said postgame. That was a hell of a throw. Now think about that statement. That's not just a teammate being nice. That's arguably the best defensive player in football looking across the ball and saying, "Yo, this kid? He's special." That's not hype, that's validation. Confidence you can't teach. Let's rewind to the pre-game moment that told you exactly who Shedeur is. Sideline reporter asks the rookie, "What do you want to show Browns fans today?" Most guys would give a soft answer. "Just out here for the team. One play at a time. You know the playbook answers." No, it's Shedeur. He stares directly into the camera and says, "I'm who they've been looking for." Mic drop. No smile, no wink, just calm confidence. That's not arrogance. not coming from him. That's a guy who believes in himself completely, and that energy, it's contagious. From the first quarter on, the Browns believed it too. Every possession felt like it had purpose. Every drive had structure, rhythm, timing. First downs stopped being miracles. Third downs were manageable. They weren't hoping for a lucky play, they were executing. He did exactly what the offense needed. Let's talk stats, not to overanalyze, but to show impact. He moved the chains. He took shots downfield. He didn't let mistakes shake his confidence. When a throw sailed or protection broke down, he adjusted. And most importantly, he made winning plays. Not safe checkdowns, not scared screens, winning plays. He finished drives, took calculated risks, gave the defense something they hadn't had all year, a breather. The defense came alive. 2. Let's not forget what else happened that day. The defense went off. 10 sacks. That's not a typo, 10 freaking sacks. Same defense, same coordinators, same playbook. So what changed? They finally had a lead to play with. It's common sense. When a defense knows the offense can score, they get to take more risks. They pin their ears back. They chase quarterbacks instead of playing scared to give up one big run. You could see it in every player. The team wasn't just playing, they were thriving, because for the first time in forever, the quarterback on the field wasn't dragging them down. He was lifting them up. The mental game was just as impressive. For a rookie with 1 week of preparation, Shedeur looked like a vet. He wasn't rattled by pressure. He adjusted protections at the line. He handled the clock like he'd been in the league for 3 years. And despite everything, the spotlight, the critics, the pressure, he stayed cool. After the game, his message wasn't complicated. A lot of people want to see me fail, and it ain't gonna happen. That doesn't sound like a guy lucky to be there. That sounds like a guy who knows exactly what he's capable of. And now, so does everyone else. And just like that, he's QB1. Here's the part the coaching staff didn't expect. Gabriel was healthy, cleared from concussion protocol. But after that win, there was no going back. NFL insiders confirmed it almost immediately. Shadūr Sanders was officially QB1 going forward, not for show, not as an emergency. He's the guy now. And when fans found out, ticket sales exploded. Merchandise stores ran out of Sanders jerseys. Players started making public comments about momentum and belief. This wasn't a one-game experiment anymore. This was a full-blown quarterback shift. But one solid win doesn't lock down legacy. It just opens the door. Now, the real test begins. Next stop, the San Francisco 49ers, one of the most violent, disciplined, brutal defenses in the league. Can Shedeur keep the magic going when the pressure gets even hotter? Or will the Browns coaching staff slip back into old habits the moment things get hard? Don't go anywhere. The future of Cleveland football might be riding on what happens next. Winning your NFL debut is rare. Winning your debut as a rookie 5th-round pick on a team drowning in dysfunction after being benched for half the season? That's nearly unheard of. But now comes the true test. Because everything Shadūr Sanders did against the Raiders, the confidence, the arm strength, the leadership will mean far less if he can't back it up against a team like this. Next up on the Browns schedule, the San Francisco 49ers. This isn't just a game. This is the game. The one that will either crown Shedeur as Cleveland's future or bring all the doubters roaring back. The wall that breaks quarterbacks. Let's not sugarcoat it. The 49ers defense is built to expose weaknesses. They don't just beat quarterbacks, they break them. Overload blitzes, disguised pressures, and traps that bait you into throwing where you think the window is, until it's too late. Nick Bosa off the edge. Fred Warner roaming the middle like a missile, a secondary that knows how to punish late releases and indecision. So, yeah, this is the big leagues now. And if Shadūr Sanders can navigate this, he's not a backup, he's not a project, he's the guy. More than skill, now we're testing grit. The Raiders game proved Sanders can play at this level. But the 49ers game? It's going to test something far bigger than mechanics. It's going to test his poise. Because every quarterback, young or old, looks sharp when the pocket is clean, when the play goes off exactly as drawn, when there's no pressure in your face. But how do you respond when you're getting hit on nearly every dropback? When the defense takes away your first 2 reads? When the coach gets conservative again and starts calling scared plays? That's what separates momentary flash from franchise foundation. The real enemy might not be the 49ers. Now, here's the uncomfortable truth. The biggest threat to Shadūr Sanders might not be San Francisco. It might be his own coaching staff. Because if things get tough, if the 49ers force some early turnovers or slow starts, history has shown that Kevin Stfansky is not the guy who trusts his quarterbacks very long. We've seen what he does when the offense hits friction. 3rd and long? Run draw, punt. 2 missed throws? Time to protect the quarterback. 1 bad game? Benching conversation starts immediately. Stefanski didn't want Sanders starting in the first place. He was forced into it, and if given the smallest crack of justification, he might be looking for an excuse to pull the rookie by halftime. That's not speculation. That's the pattern. And if the Browns fall back into that thinking, this whole momentum shift could die before it even gets going. But if he passes this test, if you're a Browns fan, here's what you should be rooting for. Not a perfect game, not even a clean win. What matters in this matchup is how Shedeur responds to heat. Yardage doesn't tell the story here. Does he control the huddle, even when trailing? Does he stare down the blitz and fire on-time throws? Does he adjust protections, recognize disguised coverages, and show that calm, composed energy that wins locker rooms even in chaos? Because if he does that, you can build your team around that. That's what separates guys with talent from guys with it. The locker room is already watching. Don't forget, the players saw what happened last week. They saw how electric that throw to Isaiah Bond was. They saw how the stadium lit up. For the first time all season, your entire team was playing like the offense actually mattered. And now, they're watching even closer, because players know when something real is starting. Veterans on that team have seen QBs come and go from overhyped draft busts to aging free agents to short-term backups. They saw the energy inside the huddle with Sanders. They felt the shift. If he goes into the 49 ERS game and holds his ground, not spectacular, just solid, confident football, you're gonna start hearing something you haven't heard in Cleveland since 1999. We found our guy. Even the league is starting to whisper. Across the NFL, coaches and scouts are paying attention. See, when a so-called raw prospect walks into the NFL with 0 preseason buzz and immediately lights up a broken offense, people take notice. NFL insiders are already starting to admit Shedeur's draft slide wasn't about talent. It was about perception, noise, and stuff that had nothing to do with football. Now, that narrative is dying fast. If he plays well against the 49 eras, division rivals will start game planning for him differently. NFL media will shift from rookie story to QB transition. Other teams will check the film and say, wait, how is this guy a 5th-round pick? And when the league starts believing in you, guess who usually catches up last? Your own coaching staff. The line has been drawn. Here's what this 49ers game really means. If Shedeur holds his own win or lose, there's no going back. No justification for benching him. No scenario where Gabriel comes in without full-blown public backlash. No more excuses from Stefanski or the offensive staff. This is the game that decides whether Cleveland finally commits to the QB spark they've been praying for, or slips back into familiar failure. There's a reason Shadūr Sanders walked onto an NFL field with 0 fear. It's not just about arm strength. It's not just about mobility. It's not just about one throw against the Raiders. It's about what's inside him. Because while the entire NFL world was busy labeling him Deion's son, or social media hype, or off-field distraction, people forgot one simple truth. This is a quarterback who's been under heavy pressure his entire life. And pressure? It's never broken him. It's built him. Born with expectation, raised in spotlight. Imagine being 12 years old and already being called Coach Prime's son every 7-on-7 game televised, every move judged, every misstep dissected. Shadūr Sanders didn't just play football. He played football with a full camera crew, thousands of followers, and the weight of a Hall of Fame last name on his shoulders. Most kids would have crumbled under that spotlight. He didn't. He embraced it. From Trinity Christian in Texas to Jackson State to Colorado, Shedeur wasn't just dealing with opposing defenses. He was facing critics, doubters, and skeptics in every stadium he entered. But what did he do every single time? Delivered. The Colorado moment that told you everything. Let's rewind to 2023. Colorado versus TCU, first game of the Deion Sanders era for the Buffaloes. The stadium packed, national media calling it a gimmick. Vegas had Colorado as 3-score underdogs. Shedeur? He walks in like it's nothing. throws for 510 yards and 4 touchdowns, breaking Colorado's single-game passing record in his very first start. That silence you heard? That was every critic choking on their hot takes. He didn't just win, he made a statement. I belong here. Same vibes in Cleveland. Different jersey, same mindset. Built from adversity. Remember, Shedeur wasn't at Alabama. He wasn't protected by 5-star linemen or a national championship schedule. He played at HBCUs, at Jackson State, in the SWAC, then at Colorado, on a roster that got outmatched almost every week. And he still dominated. Still threw for over 400 yards against USC. Still went toe-to-toe with Caleb Williams, the Heisman winner. Still showed more composure in post-game interviews than most NFL vets. When fans say, he plays with an edge, this is why. Shedeur's been doubted, underrated, and attacked his entire football life. But despite it all, he shows up, locks in, and battles. Cool under fire, a real franchise threat. There's a reason veteran teammates are already backing him. It's not just that he made big throws, it's how he made them. He looked like someone who'd seen pressure before and didn't flinch. Coaches always talk about NFL readiness in terms of processing speed, mechanics, or even arm talent. But you know what really makes or breaks a quarterback in these moments? Composure. And in his first start, Shedeur had it like he'd been in the league for years. No panic in the pocket. No finger pointing. No deer in the headlights, silence in the huddle. Instead, he took command, gave his teammates confidence, and played football like the moment was made for him. Because it was. It's in the words too. Go back to what Shedeur actually said before and after his start. Before the game, I'm who they've been looking for. No qualifiers, no apologies, just confidence. After the game, a lot of people want to see me fail, and it ain't gonna happen. Most rookies try to say the right thing. He speaks like someone with nothing to prove but everything to take. Because when you've spent your whole life fighting battles most players never face, stepping into a broken offense on a cold Sunday in Cleveland, that's just a warm-up. What competitors are already saying? We don't have to imagine what's being said in other locker rooms. It's already leaking. The Raiders knew they passed on him in the draft more than once, and after he torched them for the longest Browns pass of the season, you better believe execs were texting each other things like, "Did we whiff on him? That arm's for real, man." When word gets around the league that a guy the Browns buried on the bench for half a season is making, throws that only a handful of NFL QBs can make, the narrative flips instantly. He's not Dion's kid anymore. He's a problem. This is what Cleveland has been missing. For years, the Browns have lacked a dog at quarterback. Not just someone with tools, not just someone who can run an RPO or run out the clock. A quarterback who walks into battle like he's already 3 steps ahead of everyone around him. That's what they saw on Sunday. And yes, it's only one game, but momentum doesn't care about sample size. Locker rooms don't wait for stat sheets. They react to belief, to energy, to that spark you can't coach or program. And Shadūr Sanders? He's the spark. What if I told you that no matter what Shadūr Sanders does, no matter how well he plays, no matter how many games he wins, the Cleveland Browns are still preparing to draft a quarterback in 2026? Yes, seriously. After everything this team has seen, the rise of a rookie, the shifting momentum, fans finally feeling alive again, the front office is quietly shopping for another QB. And it's not just a rumor. It's coming from inside the house. Let's break down the madness, a team still haunted by its past. To understand why this ridiculous narrative still exists, you have to understand the trauma that lives inside 76 Lou Groza Boulevard. The Browns have been burned so many times at the quarterback position, it's practically a superstition now. Brady Quinn, Johnny Manziel, Brandon Weeden, Deshaun Kaiser, Baker Mayfield, Deshaun Watson trade fallout. A carousel of backups, free agents, and flyers. They've taken shots, they've taken risks. They've missed, over and over and over again. Now, the front office moves scared, cautious, paranoid, ready to draft insurance the second a rookie makes a mistake, even if he just led the team to one of its most energizing wins in a decade. And according to insiders, that mindset hasn't gone away. NFL insiders are already talking. Let's start here. Multiple NFL insiders, some with direct ties to AFC North front offices, have said the Browns are still evaluating quarterbacks for 2026, even after Shedūr's breakout, even after the fans bought every jersey off shelves, even after the stadium finally sounded like a playoff team, not a funeral procession. They've still got their eyes on a class of QBs for next year, one source told Bleacher Report. The staff doesn't want to get burned again, they're being careful. But you know what careful sounds like in Cleveland? Self-sabotage. How are you already planning for insurance when you haven't even committed to the guy right in front of you? What happened to developing quarterbacks? Or better yet, believing in them? The excuse inside the building. Here's the narrative being pushed softly through the media. It's just due diligence. They're just keeping their options open. It's better to be safe than sorry. That's the spin the Browns are floating. But fans aren't buying it, and they shouldn't. Because this isn't due diligence, this is planting escape hatches in November just in case. Imagine you're Shedeur. You finally get on the field. You finally light it up. Your teammates finally start playing like they believe again. And instead of being told, "This is your team," you hear whispers that the front office might draft your replacement again in 5 months. That's not development. That's instability. That's fear-based management. And fear doesn't win championships. We've seen this movie before. You want a cautionary tale? Look no further than Baker Mayfield. After a record-breaking rookie year in 2018, Baker regressed slightly in 2019 and immediately, the front office started planting exit ramps. He felt it. The locker room felt it. And by mid-2021, the team had given up on a quarterback who once electrified the city. Say what you want about Baker long-term, but the biggest mistake Cleveland made wasn't drafting him. It was failing to commit when things got hard. And now, the exact same story is playing out again. But this time, it feels even worse. Why? Because unlike Mayfield, Shadūr Sanders wasn't handed the keys. He earned them, clawed his way through resistance from the coaching staff, 0 first-team reps for 2 months, and the pressure of being a 5th-round pick with a microscope on every move. And yet, here we are. Just weeks after his breakout start, the franchise isn't building the team around him. They're quietly looking for insurance behind his back. You want to talk about dysfunction? This is it. Fans aren't falling for it anymore. The Browns spent 2 decades begging for a quarterback who could move the chains, show leadership, push the ball downfield, handle pressure, electrify the fan base. Shedeur already checked all of those boxes in one start. And now, the same fans who spent half a season screaming for someone else under center are watching the front office try to pretend like he's not enough. Cleveland talk radio isn't buying it. Tony Rizzo wasn't holding back on ESPN Cleveland. You've got a kid in your building who lit up your fan base, brought your defense alive, made your team interesting again, and you're already talking about drafting someone to replace him? Get out of here with that. That's not hot takes. That's truth. So why would they still draft a QB? Simple. Politics and pride. Kevin Stfansky didn't want Shadūr Sanders. He wanted Dylan Gabriel. He wanted discipline, system, structure. And when Shedeur came in and exploded with energy, swagger, and confidence, it wasn't just a win, it was an embarrassment for the coaching staff. Their guy failed. The guy they buried succeeded. So now, these coaches are quietly protecting themselves. If Shedeur slips up, one bad game, a 3-pick night, they'll be the first ones saying, "We always knew he wasn't the guy." And they'll draft someone new, someone they think will follow their script, someone who'll make them right again. It's not about competition, it's about control. But if that happens, everything explodes? Let's be clear here. If the Browns front office does draft another quarterback early in 2026, it may be the final straw. Because Cleveland fans aren't just fed up with losing, they're tired of seeing this exact story repeat on loop. Quarterback flash? Coaching doubt? Front office panic? Press conference spin? They've lived it with Brandon Weeden, Johnny Manziel, Colt McCoy, Baker Mayfield, and now Shedeur could be next. If they throw this away, if they go into another draft trying to solve the problem they finally might have fixed, they won't just lose games. They'll lose the people, the city, the locker room, the identity. Time to lean in, not hedge bets. This isn't the moment to ask, what if? This is the moment to look at everything you've seen with your eyes, not a spreadsheet, and say it out loud. We found something real. Now we have to build around it. That starts with commitment. Not whispers, Believe in your rookie the same way he believed in himself when no one else did. Because the truth is this: you don't need to draft another quarterback. You've already got him. By now, you've seen the highlight throws. You've felt the stadium come back to life. You've watched Shadūr Sanders turn a hopeless Browns team into something dangerous, even exciting. But make no mistake, this story isn't just about football. It's about power, because while Shedur's rise might look like the feel-good QB story of the year, what's actually happening behind the scenes is way more complicated and way more explosive. This is a cold war inside the Cleveland Browns, and it's now being waged between three people: the head coach, Kevin Stfansky, the general manager, Andrew Berry, and the owner, Jimmy Haslam. And right now, all three of them are pulling the franchise in completely different directions. Let's expose what's really going on. The coach who never wanted the rookie. Let's be blunt. Kevin Stfansky didn't want Shadūr Sanders. That's not rumor. It's been echoed by insiders, beat reporters, and even people inside the locker room. He didn't draft him. He didn't fight for him. And for months, he pretended like he didn't even see him. While Shedeur sat unused, Stefanski rolled with Dylan Gabriel, a quarterback who delivered 6 of the worst offensive performances in Browns history. And every week, Stefanski defended it. He's going through the process. We're evaluating. Everyone develops at their own pace. But then fans started asking the same question. At what point does development become complete denial? And when Gabriel got hurt, the door flew open. Shedeur walked in and stole the show in a single start. But that success? It wasn't the coach's vision. It was ownership's. The owner who blew it all open. Let's talk Jimmy Haslam. Say what you want about him: impulsive, controlling, controversial, but here's one thing he does have: football instincts. He saw something in Shadūr Sanders from the beginning. He wanted him, targeted him, talked about him. And when the coaching staff demoted him to clipboard duty, Haslam didn't make suggestions. He made mandates. Insiders confirmed it. The reason Shedeur started against the Raiders? That wasn't Stefanski's call. That was a direct order from Jimmy Haslam. Let's be real, that's rare. NFL owners don't usually interfere with game day depth charts unless the situation has gotten completely out of control. What that tells us? Haslam looked at the coaching staff and didn't trust them to make the right decision anymore. And that's when the war inside the Browns truly began. The GM playing both sides, stuck in the middle of it all? Andrew Berry, the general manager with a clipboard in his hand and a target on his back. Let's be clear, Berry is no puppet. He's made big calls before. He rebuilt the roster with elite pieces, kept the defense stacked, and made smart draft picks. And from what we've learned, Berry wanted Shadūr Sanders, not the coaching staff. During the draft, Berry was the one pounding the table for Sanders. He saw the upside. He believed the slide to round 5 was a steal. But even then, he didn't back the rookie publicly. Why? Because Berry has politics to manage. He has to keep the owner happy, keep the coach empowered, keep the fan base from throwing torches. And when you're trying to hold 3 worlds together, you say as little as possible. That survival strategy made sense. Until now. Because if Berry doesn't make a definitive move soon, he risks becoming the one who let this franchise implode from the inside. 3 men, 1 roster, 0 trust. So let's recap. Kevin Stfansky refused to play the QB everyone else was begging for. Jimmy Haslam overruled him, throwing tradition out the window to force Shedeur into the lineup. Andrew Berry is trapped in between trying to keep both sides satisfied while still preserving long-term roster control. Meanwhile, the locker room is watching. The media is circling, and the fan base is just one bad decision away from total revolt. Because what happens if Stefanski benches Shedeur after one tough game? What happens if Berry lets the staff draft another quarterback next year? What happens if Haslam makes another ego-driven decision without consulting anyone? This entire house of cards is one quarterback controversy away from collapsing completely. Why nobody can say it out loud? Here's where it gets crazier. No one's actually admitting any of this. Not officially. In every press conference, they say the right things. Stefanski, we're proud of Shedeur. Berry, we're always evaluating talent. Haslam, Kevin and Andrew have my full support. But behind the scenes, the coach doesn't fully trust the quarterback. The quarterback doesn't feel chosen by the coach. The GM doesn't want to rock the boat. And the owner is ready to burn it down again if things don't go his way. This team isn't aligned. Not at all. The Browns don't have a future QB plan. They have a QB tug of war. And history says the Browns usually blow it. Let's not rewrite the past. This is the same Browns organization that drafted Johnny Manziel based on a text message from a rapper, let 5 different coaches babysit Baker Mayfield, signed Deshaun Watson to a fully guaranteed contract, burned through $250 million, and are still dealing with the fallout, ran out of patience with every quarterback they ever had, and trusted all the wrong ones too long. This franchise lives in extremes. They either crown guys too soon or bury them before they get a chance. And Shedeur? Now he's smack in the middle of the ugly machine that ruins quarterbacks. But here's the hope. For the first time in years, the Cleveland Browns might actually have a quarterback problem worth fixing. Not because he's broken, because he's winning. Shadūr Sanders isn't just a hot hand, he's a statement. I don't care that the system wasn't made for me. I don't care that the coach didn't believe in me. And I don't care that the media picked me apart. He walked onto that field like it was his. And the team followed. That's leadership. That's franchise energy. That's what the Browns have been missing for 2 decades. If Jimmy Haslam wants control, Andrew Berry wants order, and Kevin Stfansky wants safe decisions, they're all going to have to answer one brutal question. Why did it take this long to give the keys to the one player who never blinked? Because if this rookie shines again through pressure, through conflict, through chaos, then it's not just QB1 on the line anymore, it's everyone's job. And the city of Cleveland? They'll pick Shedeur over all of them, every single time. The Cleveland Browns are standing at a crossroads. One path leads to something they haven't had in over 2 decades: stability, identity, a real leader under center. The other? It's the well-worn road of fear, dysfunction, and decisions made too late to matter. And right now, that decision rests on one name: Shadūr Sanders. He's done everything this franchise could ask for and more. He was drafted low. He never complained. He stayed patient. And when given a single chance, he walked onto an NFL field and gave a broken franchise something priceless. Not just production, but hope. And the question that now defines everything is simple but terrifying. Can the Browns finally do the right thing before it's too late? This was never just about quarterback play. From the outside, it may look simple. Kid makes big plays, coach keeps playing him, team rallies, city responds. Keep it going, right? But anyone who's followed the Cleveland Browns knows. And nothing is ever that straightforward in this city. Because here, quarterback controversies rarely end on the field. They end in boardrooms. They end in leaked quotes, front office whispers, owner meddling, coaching staff stubbornness, draft room resentment, fan base exhaustion. And if we've learned anything from the last 25 years, even when the Browns get it right on the field, they still find a way to go wrong off it. Shedeur Sanders might have rescued this team on Sunday, but if the people in charge aren't careful, Cleveland will fumble him just like every quarterback before. The ghosts of missed opportunities. Let's not pretend the fan base doesn't know what's at stake. They've seen this happen before. 2018. Baker Mayfield breaks the rookie touchdown record. Then the next year, coaching chaos blows everything up. 2007, Derek Anderson wins 10 games, never gets a second chance. 2010 seconds. They yank quarterbacks mid-season under coaching changes more times than fans can remember. Every maybe he's the guy moment, followed by a never mind. And now? They're finally seeing something different. Shedeur isn't succeeding because of the system. He's overriding it. He's not surviving in poor conditions, he's thriving in them. And that scares the people who didn't believe in him from the start. Because let's be honest, if Shedeur keeps winning, if he galvanizes this locker room, if he keeps outplaying the veterans, then everyone who kept him benched starts getting exposed. Browns front office, no more excuses. There are no safety nets left. No, maybe he needs more time. No, we'll take it week to week. You made your evaluation, now do something about it. Because this isn't a franchise that needs more competition, it's a franchise that needs conviction. Let's be real. You finally have your guy. You didn't believe it in camp. You didn't believe it in practice. You didn't believe it until you had absolutely no other choice. But now he's here. And you can feel it. The players know. The fans know. The owner knows. So if this front office opens up the 2026 draft board and starts looking for another quarterback, the city of Cleveland is going to erupt worse than ever before. Because the message won't just be, "You've lost faith in Shedeur." It'll be, "You never had it to begin with." But what if he really is the one? Let's flip the question. What if this isn't a fluke? What if this isn't just adrenaline and momentum? What if Week 12 was the first chapter of a franchise-changing story? That throw to Isaiah Bond? That wasn't a lucky deep shot. It was velocity, accuracy, timing, vision. It was the kind of throw defenses don't sleep on, executives don't ignore, coaches dream of building playbooks around. What if this moment right now is the one we look back on, like Buffalo fans look at Josh Allen's first leap, or like Chiefs fans remember Mahomes taking over for Alex Smith? Because here's the truth, we won't know unless the Browns actually commit. Not for one game, not until it gets tough. Not with hedged bets or whispers of future replacements. Fully. Start giving Shedeur the full playbook, designing the system around his strengths, letting him make mistakes and learn from them, not benching him for them. Because you know what happens when you build around a real quarterback? You stop chasing ghosts, and you start building something real. But if they don't, prepare for collapse. If the Browns treat Shadūr Sanders like a temporary band-aid, like another name on the jersey, if they brush off what fans are screaming loud and clear, then this ends the way all Cleveland feel-good stories seem to end. With wasted potential, with missed windows, with a coach stubbornly clinging to his guy, and a front office drafting another quarterback just to say they did their homework. And all that energy Shedeur brought into the building? Dead. Lifeless. Gone. Again. The decision is now. This is not a 5-year plan. This is a right-now plan. Because if Shadūr Sanders goes into the next few weeks facing teams like the 49ers, Dolphins, Bengals, and continues to show the same fire, command, and leadership, the Browns have one choice. Build around him. Period. No draft hedge. No fake QB open competition in camp. No more hiding behind small sample size talk. Trust what your eyes are telling you. Cleveland hasn't looked this alive in years, and it's because they've finally got the spark behind center. Don't blow it again. Do you think the Browns front office will fully commit to Shadūr Sanders, or do you think they'll make the same mistake again? Let's hear it in the comments. And hit that like button if you're riding with QB1, because we're tracking every twist of this Browns roller coaster from now until the smoke clears. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another play, another scandal, or another power move coming out of Cleveland. Because this ride is just getting started.